Welcome to the Healed Approach podcast, the place where bold ideas meets real action in sustainability, inclusion, and innovation. I'm Rebecca Heald, and each episode I sit down with industry trailblazers from architects and construction leaders to change makers across the board to uncover transformative strategies driving a greener, more equitable future. Whether you're here to learn about passive house standards, embodied carbon, or how inclusion sparks innovation, this is the podcast to inspire your next big move. Ready to challenge the status quo? Let's get started. Hello and welcome to the Healed Approach podcast, the latest Healed Approach podcast. And today I'm joined by Jennie Harrison. Welcome, Jennie, and thank you so much for being here today.
Hi, Rebecca. Great to see you again, and thank you for having me.
Yes, because Jennie and I have met in person. In fact, we came across each other at a CITB event that was held in Birmingham, Owning Your Success. So it was actually there was mainly women in the room, weren't there? But there was because it was for the top 100 in women in construction movement, and I think program. Sorry, but there was a male there, wasn't there? There was a young man there, which was great to see.
I think he felt a bit outnumbered.
He was sat next to me. Yeah,
often the other way around. At a lot of these events, so it's good to get a mix and good to get a mix of views. So yeah, it was a really good event. It was great to meet you. I met Anne in real life.
Oh, Anne before, yeah, she's amazing, isn't she?
She's an internet pal, so it was cool to meet her in real life. So
yeah, she's been on the podcast, and like you, she's an internet pal as well. So it was also good to see her in real life. There's quite a few people I saw in real life for the first time. It's quite surreal.
Yeah, it is. It's nice. It's nice to meet people, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And the host, Jo Britton, she's fabulous. So
she is, yeah.
But yeah, let me just explain where you're from, Jennie, and then we can get into it. So Jennie is an associate at Pell Frischmann in Manchester, my favourite place. She's a chartered civil engineer and passionate STEM ambassador. She's keen to show the wealth of different careers and opportunities within STEM to all, in particular women and other underrepresented groups. She is originally from near Kendal in Cumbria and now living in South Manchester with her young family. Out of work, she likes crafting, listening to music and experimenting with vegan cookery. Apart from being really fascinated by vegan cookery, can you talk to us about kind of your journey? Because, I think engineering is not a career that many girls know are available to them. Mm-hmm. And, can you tell us how it became possible for you?
Yes, of course. I've always liked maths and science throughout school. And then when I was picking my A-level options, I did maths, physics, graphics, and then a random AS in history, because I quite liked history. And I started studying those at 16 in year 12. And we did it was called the Engineering Education Scheme, which was run by the Royal Academy of Engineering. And we did a little civil engineering themed project. And it was about designing a movable canal bridge in Kendal, my hometown. So there's an old canal which has been filled in, and it was looking at bringing the canal back, and it was crossing a road. How was that going to work? I thought it was really fascinating, the sort of practicalities of, okay, you've got this, you've got a canal, you've got a road. At the minute, they would be an at-grade crossing. That's not going to work. So how does that work? Okay, we're going to have a bridge. It's going to move, thinking about the constraints, environmental stuff, how you're physically going to build it. I loved all that. I thought it was really fascinating. So I had a good time on the project, and that inspired me to apply for civil engineering courses at university. I didn't quite get what I wanted in my A-levels, but I managed to get into the University of Manchester to study civil engineering, and I did the MEng course, so that's 4 years. Had a really good time, met some fabulous people, still friends with lots of people from those days, and I still live in Manchester. I did summer placements at the end of each year at uni, different ones in different size companies, and doing different sectors. So my first one was with a small company called Burgess Roughton in Kendal, and that was mainly structures based. And that was good because I wasn't particularly good at structures at uni, but seeing it in sort of work sense, it was a bit better for me. It was sort of the sort of practicalities and the real life side of it. And then Capita Simons doing highways, and Mott MacDonald doing geotechnics after third year. And then when I graduated in 2009, which is a long time ago now, I started
Not as
working
long ago as me.
I
You
feel so
mentioned
old.
AS levels. I was like, this girl's a bit younger than me. Go on.
I feel old talking to the young people at work when they're born this century. I'm like, oh gosh. Um, so I started at ACOM in Altrincham, which is in South Manchester, in the highways team as a graduate engineer. Stayed at ACOM for 15 years, mainly within highways. Did some secondments to Salford City Council twice, Manchester City Council twice, and doing some work for National Highways, which was really good. And I would recommend secondments to everybody.
Yeah.
A great way of exploring what it'd be like perhaps working as a client. The ones I've done have generally been like a client type role. It's great experience, great for your professional development and also networking. I know we make sick faces and cringe about networking, but it is really good for that. And it is such a small world. You do know lots of people. Civil engineering land's small, highways is small, highways in Manchester is tiny, and you know people you've worked with in the past or you know someone else. So it's great for that type of thing. I'm a chartered civil engineer, so I got chartered in 2016 with Institution of Civil Engineers, and I'm keen to support other people going through that journey because I had it myself. I've got a duty to help them get professionally qualified. And I recently joined Pell Frischmann as an associate just over a month ago. It was the 10th of September I started. And that's going really well. Lovely people, interesting projects, great working culture, really pleased. So that's where I am. You mentioned in my intro, I'm a passionate STEM ambassador. I very much am. I like going into schools, or sometimes schools come to the office, which is great. And just to explore and show the wealth of careers. I know not everybody wants to be a civil engineer and not everybody wants to do STEM careers, but a lot of people don't know what a civil engineer does or any engineering. And if you don't know about it, how do you know if it's for you or not? And also, how do you get there? So I did quite a sort of traditional route, A-levels, university, graduate job. There's loads of different routes. So you can join companies after A-levels, or even not doing A-levels. You might be doing BTECs and stuff like that, and do degree apprenticeships or college courses, be an apprentice, loads of different routes. And that's what's really good, I think. When I went to university, it was £1,500 a year for tuition fees, approximately. It's over 9,000 now. That's a lot. That's a lot of, if you're thinking, if you want to do the masters in 4 years, that's a lot of debt to be settled with.
Yeah.
And you can, if I had my time again, if I was going through it now, maybe I would be an apprentice, trying to do a degree apprenticeship to earn and learn. But I was desperate to leave Kendal and go to Manchester to see all the bands. But, there's lots of different routes into the industry. And I'm particularly interested in showing underrepresented groups. I suppose my focus is generally women and girls. And when I went to an event for ICE at Dodrell Bank, which is really cool, go to Dodrell Bank if you haven't been to. It's a massive telescope. It's fascinating.
Where's that? Where is it?
It's in Cheshire. It's near Alderley Edge and Macclesfield.
Oh, okay.
It's a massive space. So it's not very eloquent with space telescope, but they listen to the skies. It's absolutely huge. It's a really good day out. It's a cool place.
My youngest son would love that.
I'd recommend it. And we have special events on for particular themes. And there's a new-ish visitor centre that's like a big concrete dome. It's definitely worth going to. And I said, do I look like a civil engineer? It was, I think it was maybe year 8 children, early secondary school age children. And people are like, no, you don't look like an engineer. And I think it's moving away from that stereotype of maybe some nerdy boy. I mean, I'm a nerdy girl, happy to own it. I am a nerd, that's fine. Or someone on site with muddy boots. And those people, everyone, they're equally valid civil engineers, but I think it's just moving away from the stereotypes. So I wear a dress to work. I don't wear heels because I can't be bothered, but people do wear dresses and heels to work, and that's fine. And you can wear your site boots. For me, civil engineering is open to everybody. Yeah. You've got to be interested in it though. But it shouldn't be restrictive. You should, like to promote it to everybody. Yeah,
I mean, I have this passion for promoting engineering as well. I mean, I've got several passions, but I did Construction Week the local construction week recently, and I asked a young female engineer to come along, because I don't think it's something that, you know, springs to mind, and you don't always associate engineering with construction either. And I think one thing I wanted to come back to, which you mentioned, is about how there was you were exposed to engineering in sixth form.
Sixth form, yeah.
Okay, and it was because of, you know, I guess, and I say this a lot, and that a lot, you know, often it can be a bit of a postcode lottery, you know. So if you'd have been somewhere, another school at a different time, if you hadn't have gone to sixth form, if you'd have gone to college, you might not necessarily have had that exposure, you know.
Yeah.
And for me, you're absolutely right as well. Schools, you've hit so many important points, you know, in what you've just said there about how, you know, you don't have to go down a traditional route either, you know. And me with my children, you see, my eldest son, my youngest son will be going to the same school, but he goes to a very academic school. You know, they have to sit tests to get in. And I know that they're not necessarily, and it's a great school, don't get me wrong. There's it is, but I know that it's not necessarily educating him or giving him the exposure to all of the range of opportunities that are available. So like, I had to talk to him the other day about engineering, what it means. So he's doing an engineering GCSE. He had no idea what modern methods of construction were or anything. I mean, I'm not saying he should at that age necessarily, but he should at least be having some idea of what is out there and what's available. He didn't know about apprenticeships. And I think, okay, that might be something that they cover in year 11 or in year 12. But my God, this is where we start planting the seeds.
Yeah.
You
Definitely.
know, and it was just lucky, I guess, that you had a passion and you were open to trying out engineering, even though you were going down that kind of technical route, I guess, anyway. But a lot of the times, you know, especially with young girls, if they have, there's a lot of stigma around these kind of professions, and also as well lack of knowledge or awareness what it means. I mean, I still don't really know what an engineer is or a civil engineer, you know. And I just feel like the traditional, you know, academic system is falling short, and then we're wondering why it is that we have this huge skills gap.
No, agree. And when I speak to school pupils, I'm keen to talk about graduate routes and apprentice routes, because some schools don't seem to push apprenticeships.
No.
I don't know if that's something to do with how their school leavers are reported and that type of thing, and maybe they think, you know, university isn't for everybody, and that's fine. And no, I don't think anybody should be forced to go to do something they don't want to do and it doesn't suit them. But I think some schools are a bit funny about apprenticeships, which I don't understand why, because it's setting people up. I don't really get that. It's cool you can do a GCSE in engineering, though. I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah. He's doing engineering GCSE, but then this is where I don't know though. I mean, he's only just started doing it. He doesn't tell me very much, you know. It's like, how was school today? You know,
he's 5-year-olds. I don't know what she's doing at school.
Say that again.
They say with my 5-year-old, it's like, what did you do? I'm not telling you. All right, okay, just asking.
I was talking to somebody yesterday actually, who was telling me that he's got his son is 8, and he gets him to like kind of write down the key, like gets him to do a little bit of journaling.
Oh wow!
And write down some of the key things that he's learned from school, as well as other things like what he wants to achieve and all this. And I think that's great. I think that's great if we can start teaching, because I'm a big believer in journaling, big believer in, you know, setting goals and manifesting and stuff like that. Because when I look back, I think, you know, that's kind of how I've achieved most of the things I've achieved unconsciously. Does that make sense?
You sort of set your goals and you go in that way and having some sort of direction. That's good. That's good.
Yeah, and that's what we should be teaching young people to do as well, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, I just, it's all still very much, well, I've got to do it this way, I've got to do it that way. And we're not necessarily always teaching children the critical skills, the self-awareness, you know. I mean, it's great. You shared your experience about, because a lot of what you said was so similar to me. You know, I was like, I didn't even really know what I wanted to do at university. I just knew that I wanted to get out. I just wanted to get out of Lincoln. I wanted to go to Manchester. I wish I'd stayed like you, and I did stay. I did stay for nearly 10 years, but ended up coming back because I think it was just the job that ended up coming back here. And I think, you know, this is where I kind of get a little bit, because it's not like it was years and years ago, you know, where you had to have a degree. You know, there are other routes, there are other opportunities. But then I also do think it's a great life experience to go to another big city and to learn that. Like, you've probably made some of your bestest friends doing that.
Oh yeah.
But again, I think sometimes it's like, okay, but you know, just because we go to university to study a particular subject or discipline, you know, that doesn't mean to say we can't try something else afterwards.
And people talk about, even like, you know, I started work in 2009, so I've been at work for 15 years. But people talk about changing careers now. The doors are never shut. Some people on my course didn't go into engineering. They maybe thought they wanted to do that when they were 18 and younger, were applying for uni, and that's fine. You know, we can change what we do, and you know, there's lots of transferable skills and being sort of practical that you can work easily in other fields. So yeah, the world is your oyster. Yeah.
I spoke about this at a careers event last week, and I spoke about how I went and did a languages degree. And the only reason I did that is because it was like, oh, you're good at languages. You know, that's what you should do. There was no like, what do you enjoy doing? You know, what do you kind of, you know, what really floats your boat? What do you feel passionate about? And also as well, I didn't know any different. No one came to us and told us about all these other things we could do. And so I ended up, you know, it became I hated it. I mean, I loved Manchester. I made some of the best friends, like they're my best friends now. But I absolutely hated my degree. It was like torture, you know? And yeah, again, and I came from, you know, very working class, you know, I was brought up on a council estate. I was the first person in my family to go to university. I think there's only been one since that's gone. And then I went to this kind of, you know, really good red brick university to do this, you know, languages degree. And I just was like a fish out of water. You know, there was just no, but I had no idea. There was no guidance. There was no, you know, and it would have made a difference if I'd have been really passionate about what I was studying. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't look back and have regrets, but I just kind of think, imagine if I'd have known the opportunities that were out there, imagine what the difference I could have been making back then, instead of waiting until I was 40 to set up my own business and realise what I want to
do. I was the first from my family to go to university as well, and then my sister followed. She does chemical engineering. She went to Manchester as well.
Amazing.
It's quite handy, so she just lives down the road, so that's good. But my course, I don't know if it's because of civil engineering, it was a bit different, and it was more geared. It's more sort of practical pointing degree. A lot of the people on my course, okay, there were some posh people, but people were from dissimilar backgrounds to me. But some of the people I lived with in halls who were doing sort of humanities degrees had gone to private schools and had come from a completely different world.
Yeah.
And that's fine. We're all different. And I think people need to, you know, no one should be forced to go to university. And you know, it's all about the life experiences and meeting new people, and you will meet people from all sorts of backgrounds, whatever job you do.
Yeah.
And it's just, I'm very nosy. I think people behaviours are fascinating, how people get on and stuff like that. So, yeah, this is turning into a yay, we love Manchester.
Yeah, session. I know, isn't it? But, you know, I think anybody who's listening, you know, it is a great place. It's a buzzing place to be. And, you know, not that, I should be like talking about Lincoln and how great that is. And, you know, but yeah, no, it is a great place to be. But I'm interested then to kind of learn more about what you're doing in schools, what you're doing. So when you talk about STEM, because that can look very different for people. So so there are two things I'd really like to kind of, you know, talk about while I've got you, and that is kind of the stuff you're doing around STEM, but also I know you're involved in women in transport.
Yes, I'll briefly talk about the STEM in schools. So some of the stuff is quite low key, and asking Manchester City Council do a thing called what's my job? And basically it's like year 5, year 6 children in small groups ask people questions and try and work out their job.
Yeah.
The idea isn't to actually guess a title, it's more to learn about different jobs, and you can bring a prop. So there's some quite low-key stuff like that. Other times we've done activities where we've built paper towers out of paper, and tested the sort of loading capacity with books, and stuff like that. Some of the things are more chatting about careers, other things are practical activities to try and get people interested and to see, you know, what if you're good at building towers or thinking about how a tower is going to work, then maybe you might want to be a civil engineer or a structural engineer and design a building, you know, going down that route. So it's good fun. It's always intense. I don't know how teachers do it. Well done to any teachers.
I used to be one.
Oh God, the amount of trying to keep the class calm and there's all the children excited is well done. Hats off to you.
I did it. I taught it. That's what I did before I moved back. I taught in Manchester, and
oh, cool.
Yeah.
And then Women in Transport. So I've been involved with them for probably 18 months or so. They in the Northwest branch. So I've done some events with them. Where I've spoken and hosted some sessions. And what I think is really good about Women in Transport is that it's very broad. So I am involved. I am a woman who works on transport projects, so designing roads and working on road projects. I'm there. There's other people who drive buses. There's other people who work in like the comms team for a traffic management company. It's very varied. I think that's really cool and brings a lot to it because we're all coming at it from different angles.
Yeah.
So, and it's very friendly. There's lots of support. I'm also very involved with ICE, so Institution of Civil Engineers. And that's good. That's really good. But it is just civil engineers, whereas the Women in Transport is very broad, and that's cool. They did a trip around a bus depot in York. It's the first electric bus depot, and I went on that obviously because I'm a nerd. But it was amazing. It was super cool. I'm also involved with NAWIC, the National Association of Women in Construction Northwest, and we are doing a new campaign, look out for stuff soon, about caring responsibilities. So, and not just looking at parenthood, there's a whole range of that. So if people have got I say relatives, could be anybody, I suppose, relative or friends, people with chronic health conditions or older people or stuff like that, just to understand people's challenges. I think the world has moved on in a positive fashion after COVID, especially with flexible working. I know you've not asked me this and I'm going off on a tangent. So
no, go for it.
I don't think I could balance parenthood and work if I had to be in the office 9 till 5 every day. My son is at nursery. He is 3. My daughter is 5 and she's at primary school. Nursery hours are fine. I can drop off at 7:30, pick up at 6. That does work with work day, a standard work day. School hours do not. And we did not get into breakfast club last year, and we only got into after school club partway through the year. So it was a lot of balancing and managing. Their dad dropped off. I picked up. And luckily had understanding employers that understood the challenges of, okay, I can do my hours, and if there's something important, I can log back on later. But that's really tricky. And I mean, we're lucky that we have got into breakfast club and after school club the days we want now. But if I had to be in an office 9 till 5, that would not work. I would have to, I don't know, reduce my hours a lot more, or, the flexibility to work at home. So I started work at 6 o'clock this morning not because we've got a deadline, but so I can finish at 3 o'clock to do pickup. So I think that's the big thing. And employers are a lot more after COVID, and we all showed we could work from home. We weren't just going to be messing about on the internet. We were actually doing work. That is so positive, and that flexible working for me personally has really helped. I know some people have struggled, especially if they were working at home all the time, and some of the apprentices at where I used to work at ACOM, their parents were also working from home, so then they ended up working in their bedrooms, and that's not good for anybody. But I think having that balance and that sort of choice and flexibility and feeling trusted and empowered, and we're all professionals, we're all grown-ups, to be able to do the right thing that means we get our work done, we don't let our clients down, we can work with our team on on Teams, other things available, is really positive. So in conclusion, now we're doing a campaign about care responsibilities, and we'll have some surveys just to get a feel for what people are struggling with, or if they've had really positive experiences returning to work after maternity, paternity or parental leave, and how to care for relatives as well. So that's really interesting.
No, I'm really pleased that you've touched on this, actually, because I was going to talk about this on my social media, because there's just been the what was it? Obviously gender pay gap, it exists. Mm-hmm. And I think, was it the Employment Rights Bill? According to that, one of the sorry.
I think it was on the news last night, was it? Yeah. Talking about how people can get sick pay from day one, or statutory sick pay from day one, or something. I didn't listen to it.
I don't know, but all I know is that they have now, large employers have to have an action plan to address the gender pay gap.
Okay.
And, I just want to, and this links, because I think I read somewhere that something like 80% of the gender pay gap comes down to that motherhood penalty. And I think we're not living, like you said, the world has changed, the world has moved on. This whole 9 to 5, working in an office 9 to 5, that's not how business needs to be done anymore. It's such an old-fashioned and archaic way of thinking about things. Now, don't get me wrong, I think that you do need to be, I don't think working from home 24/7 is healthy or right for anybody, but to have that flexibility. But it's not just about, for me, this is where we need to start empowering men. We need to we need to allow men to thrive at home as well as supporting women at work. Yeah. So it's about having equal parental leave for me. It's about creating cultures where fathers can work flexibly. They're encouraged to take any parental leave. They are loud and proud about their caring responsibilities. The amount of times it will be, well, I've got to be in the office 8 till 6. So, I try and make sure that my wife does all the school drop-offs and the pickups because, I've got to be a role model. And I'm like, I understand and I get that, but think about what impression you're giving to your, to some of your younger members of staff who might want to go and have children, or who do have children and feel like they can't say, I've got to go and pick my son up because he's at XYZ. And I've worked with a lot of business owners who do say, I'm more than happy for my staff to go and get their kids early if they need to, but then they're not practicing it themselves because they feel like they've got to be omnipresent.
Which is a challenge. And I should have said I work 4 days, so I don't work on Mondays. That might change when my youngest goes to school next year. We'll see. Maybe I want to have a day off to do stuff for me. But their dad has a day off as well. So he works 4 days, compressed hours. And I think that's good because a lot of the times it's mums who might work part-time to reduce childcare costs or to spend time with your children. But he has a day off. He doesn't work Thursdays, and that's really good because then he can have a day with the children. And I think that sets a good example because it's a joint effort, children. So it's
This is it. And I think it is, it's about having a, open, honest communication between yourselves, but it's also, like I said, creating better cultures at work. Everything's so, we're still living within or working within cultures that are based on patriarchal expectations and standards. And this is what my mission is. My mission is to kind of break some of this down. So some of the stuff that you're doing with NOWIC, I'll be really interested to talk to you about that actually and see if there's anything I can help with, because we need to start changing things, not just for women. We need to start changing things for men.
For all genders, for everybody.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely. No, fascinating. So you'll have to make sure, you let me know about the survey you're doing, and obviously I can share some of that and put anything in the show notes as well. But thank you so much, Jenny. I mean, this has been such an interesting conversation. I know we've gone kind of covered quite a lot of things, but I think some of the work you're doing is amazing. I think we need to see more of it. We need to see more of the SEM stuff happening earlier in schools as well, I think. But we'll keep doing it. We'll keep doing what we need to do, won't we? But can you let people know, before we wrap it up, can you let people know where they can find you, Jenny?
The best place to get me is on LinkedIn. I do have a Instagram, but I don't really use it. So LinkedIn, if you search for Jennie Harrison, and if you have to put Pell Frischmann in to find me, there's not that many Jennie Harrisons.
Excellent.
But happy to chat to anybody. And thank you, Rebecca, for taking the time to have me on today. It's been great. We've had a good chat.
We have.
And I'll just say, in conclusion, yay, Manchester.
Yay, Manchester. Well, I'm just thinking, I'm going to be up again soon. So I was like, I wanted to try and see you when I was up just now, but it ended up being chaos. So, but yes,
we'll get something sorted.
Thank you. Yeah, we will. And thank you, everybody, for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode, please make sure that you leave us a 5-star review. Please also make sure that you share it with anybody else who you think would find value in it. And I look forward to seeing you here next time.
Thanks, Rebecca. Take care. Hope you feel better soon. Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to the Healed Approach podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your network. Let's spread the word and drive the change our industry desperately needs. Stay connected with me on LinkedIn or at rebecca-healed.co.uk. And as always, keep pushing boundaries and making impact. Until next time.